Elias opened his eyes slowly, his vision blurred by bright, swirling lights that he could not place. For a moment, he thought he was still inside the reactor chamber, trapped under rubble, the heat of the explosion still burning in his chest, but the pain was gone. Instead, he felt a strange softness beneath him, and a calm, rhythmic warmth surrounding him. He tried to move his arms, only to feel a pair of strong hands supporting him. He froze. The hands were not human. They were long, elegant, and their skin shimmered in a faint blue hue, almost like the surface of a tranquil ocean under sunlight. His mind raced, trying to recall what had happened. The last memory he had was of the reactor breach, the alarm blaring in his ears, the desperate faces of his crew, and the terrible, final decision he had made to sacrifice himself to save the evacuation fleet. He had thought it was the end. And yet, he was alive. Somehow. Against all odds, he was alive. But the being holding him, he could hardly believe his eyes. "Elias," a voice said, trembling slightly, soft but carrying a depth that made his chest tighten. "I thought you died." The words struck him like lightning. He looked up at the figure above him. She was tall, regal, and completely unlike any species he had ever encountered. Her skin was a vibrant, glowing blue, with patterns that shimmered across her shoulders and neck like living tattoos. Her eyes were large and luminous, a deep indigo that seemed to look straight into his soul. And yet, there was a softness in her gaze, a mix of relief and grief that he could feel like a tangible weight pressing against his chest. Valeth. He remembered her name, the Queen of Thalcora. She had been there, overseeing the joint operation when the reactor had been breached. He had barely exchanged words with her, yet now, she held him in her arms as if she had been waiting for this moment for years, and maybe she had. I'm alive," he managed to whisper, his voice weak and hoarse. He tried to sit up, but her hands gently pressed against his shoulders, keeping him steady. How is this possible?" Valeth shook her head, her long fingers brushing a damp strand of hair from his forehead. "I don't know. The healers, the technology, the energy you absorbed from the reactor. It's unlike anything I have ever seen. You should be gone." Her voice faltered, and Elias noticed a single tear forming in the corner of her eye. He tried to comprehend her words. Somehow, some way, he had survived a reactor explosion that had flattened half the station. The energy that should have consumed him had instead sustained him, kept him alive. But the thought that Valeth, the Queen, had mourned him, it made his stomach twist. You were there?" he asked cautiously. "When it happened? I watched. From the bridge. I saw you fall. I thought I lost you forever." She exhaled sharply, a sound that seemed to carry years of grief. "I held on to hope, though faint it was, and now," her voice broke slightly, "now, you are here." Elias felt a strange mixture of shame and awe. He had always considered himself a man of action, a fixer of impossible problems. Yet here he was, utterly powerless in the hands of an alien queen who had considered him dead. Yet, despite the formal and intimidating aura she always carried, her vulnerability now was undeniable. He had seen her command fleets, negotiate treaties, and strike fear into opponents. But now she was simply human in her emotions. He tried to sit fully upright, and this time Valeth allowed him to. Around them, the room was unlike anything on Earth. It glowed with a soft, bioluminescent light, panels shifting and changing color like gentle waves. The walls curved smoothly, almost organically, and intricate symbols pulsed faintly in rhythm, with some hidden energy flow. Elias could not tell if it was technology, magic, or something in between. He had seen advanced tech, but this was beyond anything humans had built. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice still shaky. "You are on Thalcora," Valeth replied simply. "My palace. Our healers found you, and brought you here." Elias tried to recall what had happened after the explosion. He remembered the blinding light, the intense heat, the despair, as he thought of the people who had escaped because of him. And then, nothing. No pain, no darkness, just this strange calm. You survived the reactor's core, Valeth said softly. It is a miracle, Elias. Not even we understand it fully. But I knew you were special. I always believed humans had potential beyond anything we imagined. And now, you have proven it. Elias looked down at himself, at his hands. They were unburned, unscarred. Yet he felt the faint echo of the energy he had absorbed. It was like a quiet hum in his bones. A lingering warmth that made him feel powerful and fragile at the same time. He turned back to Valeth, trying to mask his confusion with a weak smile. You held on to hope. For me? He asked. She nodded. I could not let go. You changed everything, Elias. Not just for me. For my people. For your people. You saved countless lives. I could not accept losing you. Her gaze softened, her hand lingering on his arm. And now that you are here, I will not let you leave again. The words struck him, not with fear, but with an unexpected sense of belonging. For years, humans had ventured into space, facing unknown dangers, often underestimated and dismissed by alien civilizations. And yet, here, a queen herself, the ruler of a world more advanced than Earth, had never given up on him. Humans were fragile, imperfect, mortal. And yet, they could inspire loyalty, hope, and even devotion across the stars. He felt a surge of pride, quiet but deep, that he had been chosen by fate to be part of something far greater than himself. He tried to speak, but a soft humming sound interrupted him. From the walls of the chamber, a faint mist began to rise, curling around him in gentle spirals. Valeth's eyes narrowed slightly as she watched the mist, and then she looked back at him. The healers are preparing a restoration process, she explained. It will help your body fully recover. You have been away for longer than you realize. Time has moved differently for you near the reactor. Your people, your world, they have changed. Elias felt a sudden weight pressing on him. How long? He asked. Fear creeping into his voice. Valeth hesitated. Years. For us, only days have passed. But for you, it has been much longer. The words sent a shiver down his spine. He had not just survived death. He had survived time itself, in a way he could not yet understand. The galaxy he had known was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar, and yet, Valeth was still here, and she had waited for him. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. And everyone else? He asked quietly. Did they? Valeth shook her head. Many thought you were gone, but your legacy, it lives on. Stories of your courage, your sacrifice, they inspired treaties, alliances, even a new understanding between our peoples. You have already changed the galaxy, Elias. And now, you are here to shape it further. Elias looked down at his hands again, the quiet hum of energy still pulsing faintly within him. He had faced impossible odds before, but nothing like this. The galaxy had not expected him to return. The Queen had not expected him to return. And yet, here he was, alive, holding on to a chance to prove humanity's strength, resilience, and courage once more. Valeth reached out, gently lifting his hand to her chest. Her touch was firm yet tender, a silent reassurance that he was not alone. Rest now, she said softly. We have much to discuss, and your recovery will take time. But know this, Elias, you are not just a human. You are a symbol. And sometimes, symbols have the power to change destinies. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of her presence seep into him. The fear, confusion, and uncertainty began to fade, replaced by a quiet determination. He had survived death. He had returned to a world that did not expect him, and for the first time, he truly understood what humans could accomplish, even against the vast, indifferent expanse of the galaxy. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Valeth watching him, with a mixture of hope and relief. For the first time, Elias allowed himself a small, confident smile. He did not yet know what awaited him, or how the universe would test him next. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity had survived. Humanity had endured. And he would not fail. The Queen's eyes softened once more, and Elias felt a bond forming, stronger than fear or doubt, stronger than any technology or weapon. It was trust. It was hope. It was something uniquely human that no alien species could replicate. And as he looked around the glowing chamber of Thalcora, he realized that his journey had only just begun. The universe had witnessed a miracle, and that miracle was a human, returned from the brink of death, held in the arms of a blue-skinned queen who refused to forget him, and Elias knew, deep in his heart, that together they could face whatever challenges awaited, because sometimes survival was only the first step toward changing the fate of the stars. Elias spent the first days waking slowly, reacquainting himself with movement, sensation, and even the simple act of breathing in the fresh, filtered air of Valeth's palace. The restoration process the healers had begun was unlike any medical procedure he had ever experienced. It was gentle, precise, and almost organic, as if the palace itself had a consciousness that understood his body. Small devices glowed softly around him, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat, and a light mist hovered, adjusting temperature, moisture, and energy to match the needs of his recovering body. Valeth remained nearby almost constantly. She did not hover over him in a controlling way, but her presence was steady, comforting, and calm. She would speak occasionally, offering advice, updates on the state of the galaxy, or even casual observations about the palace and the lives of her people. For Elias, these conversations became anchors in a world that had changed so completely during his absence. "You need to understand," Valeth said one morning, as he sat on a soft, bioluminescent bench in a recovery garden. "Your survival is not just personal. It has consequences, political ones, social ones, and even philosophical ones. Humans are now seen differently across many star systems. They are no longer just observers. They are symbols of resilience." Elias frowned slightly, still weak from the process but feeling stronger than he had in years. "Symbols?" he asked. "I was just doing my job. I didn't plan to become a symbol for anyone." Valeth's indigo eyes softened. "Sometimes, the universe does not care about plans. It responds to actions. And what you did, sacrificing yourself for so many lives, it changed perceptions. Entire fleets, entire councils, now see humans as capable of heroism beyond their own expectations. And yet, not all see it as something to admire." He had guessed as much. The galaxy was not a simple place. Political alliances were fragile, and any disturbance could spark conflict. "So, some factions are unhappy about me being alive?" he asked. His brow furrowed. Valeth nodded. "Yes. Some extremists, who profit from fear and division, see your survival as a threat. They worry that the admiration humans receive could undermine their control. They want you gone." 71. Gone. Elias felt a shiver run through him. He had survived death by chance. Yet now that very survival had painted a target on his back. He had always been a problem solver, a man who faced challenges head-on, but this was different. This was no mere malfunction or technical failure. This was politics, ideology, and prejudice wrapped in deadly intent. "I see," he said slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. "So, I'm a symbol, yes, but also a liability." Valeth reached out, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. "Not just a liability, Elias. You are an inspiration. You remind everyone that humans can endure, can innovate, and can make choices that matter, even when the odds are stacked against them. That is why I will protect you, and why you must also learn to protect yourself." The palace suddenly seemed larger, more imposing, as if the walls themselves carried the weight of her words. Elias looked around at the softly glowing flora, the faintly humming structures, and the quiet streams of water that moved without pumps, bending through the palace like silver ribbons. Thalcora was more than a home. It was a living testament to Valeth's rule, and now it had become the stage for his unexpected return. Over the next week, Elias began training. Not with weapons, though he would eventually do that. Not with battle strategy, though he would need it. He trained with his mind. Valeth introduced him to advanced alien systems, technologies that reshaped his understanding of physics, energy, and human potential. He learned how to manipulate energy conduits, how to interpret alien languages, and how to anticipate movements that no human eye could see at first glance. Despite the intensity, he found moments of quiet joy. He marveled at how humans, once thought weak, could adapt and learn even in the presence of such advanced intelligence. Valeth often watched him from a distance, her expression unreadable but occasionally breaking into something that resembled pride. It was during one of these training sessions that the first alert came. The palace walls pulsed with red light, and soft alarms echoed through the chambers. Elias felt his stomach tighten. "What is happening?" he asked, already reaching for the nearest console, a sleek surface that bent slightly under his fingers like living metal. Valeth appeared beside him almost instantly, her expression calm but firm. "There is an incoming transmission," she said. "A coalition of extremists. They have noticed your survival. They are testing us, seeing how far they can push." Elias's mind raced. "Testing? Are they attacking?" "Not yet," she replied. "But it is only a matter of time. They want to see if we are prepared. They want to provoke a mistake. We must respond carefully." He nodded, feeling a surge of determination. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humans could stand against threats even the galaxy deemed insurmountable. And in the process, he would have to show Valeth and perhaps all of Thalcora that he was more than a symbol. He was capable of action. The coalition's message arrived minutes later. Holographic projections displayed the leaders of the extremist factions, each one sharp and cruel in appearance, each one speaking with confidence that their forces were superior. Their words were simple but chilling. "Human interference has consequences. Those who survive when they should die cannot be allowed to live. Surrender your human, Valeth, or face the destruction of your fleet." Elias felt a cold spark ignite within him. They wanted him, feared him, and yet underestimated him. That had always been a human advantage, the ability to surprise, to innovate, to act in ways others did not anticipate. He turned to Valeth. "They don't know what humans are capable of," he said quietly. "We need a plan, one they won't expect." Valeth's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "I thought you might say that, and you are right. Humans have unique thinking. That is why I value you, Elias. And that is why we will succeed." The next hours were a whirlwind. Elias and Valeth, along with her top advisors, devised strategies that combined human ingenuity with Thalcora's advanced technologies. They created decoys, misdirections, and simulations that would confuse and disorient any attacker. Elias suggested unconventional approaches that the alien leaders had not considered, leveraging the unpredictability of human logic and improvisation. Valeth, impressed, nodded as the plans fell into place. As night fell over Thalcora, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the softly glowing city. The vast oceans stretched beyond, their surfaces reflecting the stars. He realized that this was more than a battle of survival. It was a test of human capability, human creativity, and the power of hope. Even as the coalition's forces moved closer, he felt a strange calm. He had faced death once, he had survived it. And now, facing a galaxy that doubted him. He felt the familiar thrill of challenge stir within him. Valeth joined him silently, her presence reassuring. "Do you remember when you saved my people?" she asked. "You risked everything. And now, here you are again. About to do the same." Elias nodded. "I remember. And I also know something now: humans do not give up. We survive. We adapt. And sometimes, we inspire others to survive with us." Her eyes glimmered in the faint light. "Then we will show them, Elias. We will show them what humans and Thalcora are capable of when we stand together." The following days passed in a tense rhythm. Scouts reported movements, communications intercepted enemy plans, and Elias continued to train and refine strategies. Despite the looming threat, he began to see the wider picture. His survival had already started to change perceptions. Stories of his return spread subtly through the galaxy, carried by sympathetic factions, whispered in alien corridors, and recorded in archives for those who would listen. And slowly, Elias understood something essential. The true power of humans was not in strength alone. It was in courage, in ingenuity, in the willingness to rise again when the world expected them to fall. Every simulation, every defensive measure, every calculation he made carried that truth. Then, the first confrontation came. A small strike team from the coalition attempted a reconnaissance mission near the palace. Their ships were fast, sleek, and heavily armed. But Elias had anticipated their approach. Using a combination of misdirection, energy shielding, and precise maneuvers, he and Valeth's fleet neutralized the threat before any damage occurred. The victory was small but significant. It proved that humans could face dangers far beyond their technological level and still succeed. Valeth's respect for him deepened, but more importantly, Elias began to see the impact of human determination in real time. His presence was changing the galaxy not through power, but through proof that resilience, courage, and cleverness could shape outcomes even in the face of overwhelming odds. That night, as the palace lights shimmered softly across the oceans, Elias stood once again with Valeth. She did not speak at first. She simply watched him, a mixture of pride and something softer, almost like relief, in her gaze. "You are more than a survivor, Elias," she finally said. "You are a human who reminds everyone, myself included, that life, courage, and hope cannot be measured by odds alone. And now, the galaxy will learn it too." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words and the responsibility that came with them. He had survived death once. He had survived time itself. And now, standing on Thalcora with the queen who had never given up on him, he realized that the real journey was only beginning. The extremists would come. They would test him again. But Elias was ready. He was no longer just a human lost in the stars. He was a force of hope, a symbol, and a proof that sometimes, even when the galaxy expected defeat, humans could rise and change the course of destiny. Elias had grown stronger with each passing day. The restoration process had healed his body completely, and his mind was sharper than ever. He could navigate alien technology with ease, predict movements in combat simulations, and understand patterns in energy flows that even seasoned Thalcoran engineers struggled with. Yet, he knew that intelligence alone would not be enough. The coalition that sought his death would not stop. They had resources, cunning, and the will to destroy anything in their path. Valeth watched him train, her indigo eyes observant, calculating. She had led her people through countless wars, negotiated peace with hostile civilizations, and faced threats that could have ended her reign. Yet, she found herself learning from Elias, surprised by his unique approach to problems. Humans thought differently. They were unpredictable in ways that machines, calculations, and even the most disciplined alien minds could not anticipate. "They will come," Valeth said one morning as Elias practiced energy redirection techniques in the palace's central chamber. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. "I have intercepted their communications. The extremists are gathering a fleet. Their goal is to force me into surrender, or to capture you. And they will not stop until one of us is destroyed." Elias paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Then we need to strike first," he said, his voice steady, not recklessly, but strategically. "If they think they can control us with fear, we show them that humans don't back down from danger. We anticipate their moves, and we take action before they even begin." Valeth raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "And you believe humans alone can influence the outcome of a battle between fleets far larger than your species can command?" Elias smiled faintly. "Not alone. But humans are good at finding solutions where others see none. If we combine your fleet's strength with my perspective, we can turn the tables. We can make them underestimate us, and that will be their mistake." The Queen studied him for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then she nodded, slowly but decisively. "Very well, Elias. We will test this theory. Prepare yourself. The first strike will come soon." Days passed in tense preparation. Every strategy was analyzed, every defense reinforced, and every energy conduit monitored. Elias worked with the Thal Koran engineers to modify the palace's shields and the fleet's formations, introducing new approaches that relied on unpredictability and human intuition. Valeth had expected military precision, but what she got from Elias was creativity, improvisation, and a willingness to take calculated risks. Finally, the coalition acted. A small fleet of sleek, dark ships approached Thalcora at high speed, their movements precise but predictable. The Thal Koran sensors detected them immediately, and alarms echoed softly through the palace. Elias was at the control station with Valeth, his eyes scanning incoming data streams. "They expect us to react in a straight line," he said quietly. "They expect predictability. We give them the opposite." Valeth tilted her head. "Explain." He pointed at the holographic display, showing the fleet's projected trajectory. "Instead of meeting them head-on, we simulate a retreat, a minor vulnerability. They will take the bait, thinking we are weaker than we are. Then we strike from unexpected angles, using the environment, the energy currents, planetary defenses, and hidden turrets to our advantage. They will be caught off guard." Valeth's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "A trap, then. I like it." The attack began. The coalition's fleet surged forward, confident in their superiority. As Elias predicted, they advanced toward the apparent weak point. Then, one by one, the hidden defenses activated. Energy barriers flared, ships became trapped in magnetic fields, and hidden turrets fired with perfect accuracy. The coalition ships struggled to adjust, caught between their expectations and the reality of Elias's plan. From the balcony above the central chamber, Valeth watched, her heart quickening with both pride and amazement. Humans had always been underestimated, and Elias was proving why. His calm, methodical mind, combined with bold creativity, had orchestrated a defense that even Thalcora's most experienced tacticians had not anticipated. Elias coordinated the defense with steady hands, issuing orders in human logic, while adjusting for Thalcoran technology. Every move was calculated, yet flexible, allowing rapid responses to unexpected developments. He felt alive, more alive than he had ever felt before. The thrill was not in combat itself, but in proving that humans could influence outcomes far beyond their apparent limits. Despite the success, the coalition was not defeated. They withdrew, regrouped, and prepared for a larger attack. Elias knew this was only the beginning. Their goal was to capture him, to remove the symbol that had become a threat to their ideology. Every day that he survived strengthened the perception that humans could endure, adapt, and triumph where others faltered. In the quiet after the first confrontation, Valeth approached him in the control chamber. "You are extraordinary," she said softly. "Not just for your mind, but for your spirit. Humans, you never give up, even when the odds are impossible. That is why I never stopped believing you could survive." Elias looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "I learned from watching you. You never gave up on anything, I just used what humans are good at: thinking differently, taking risks, and staying alive. She studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. You are not just a survivor. You are a bridge. A reminder to the galaxy that humans can be more than they appear. And now, we must prepare for the next wave. They will not be so easy to outsmart. Elias nodded. He felt a growing sense of responsibility. His survival was no longer just a personal miracle, it was a test for all humans. A challenge to show that courage, creativity, and resilience could matter even on a galactic scale. He spent the next days analyzing intelligence reports, coordinating with the fleet, and developing new strategies. Every simulation, every exercise, reinforced one truth: humans could adapt, even in situations that seemed hopeless. Then came the day of the major attack. The coalition deployed a full fleet, dark and menacing against the backdrop of Thalcora's glowing oceans. Elias stood at the control station with Valeth beside him, the hum of energy and the soft glow of the palace surrounding them. He felt the familiar rush of determination. This was the moment to prove that humans could rise when the galaxy expected them to fall. Remember, he said quietly, they expect predictability. We give them innovation, flexibility, uncertainty. That is our greatest weapon. Valeth nodded, her eyes reflecting both admiration and trust. Then lead. Elias, show them what humans are capable of. The battle began. Coalition ships advanced in formation, confident in their numbers. But Elias's strategies unfolded perfectly, using decoy fleets, energy diversions, and clever misdirection. The human mind turned the battlefield into a maze the coalition could not navigate. Hidden turrets, planetary defenses, and the fleet's coordinated maneuvers trapped the enemy in a web of unexpected tactics. At one point, a large enemy vessel broke through a perimeter shield, heading straight for the palace. Elias acted instantly. He calculated its trajectory, redirected energy currents, and used a combination of Thalcoran technology and human improvisation to neutralize the threat. The ship was disabled without a single life lost on Thalcora's side. Valeth watched him, silent, her pride nearly overwhelming her composure. Here was a human who had survived death, mastered alien technology, and turned his survival into a force that could protect an entire world. He was not just clever, he was extraordinary. Hours passed. The coalition, realizing their plans were failing, attempted to retreat. Elias and Valeth coordinated a controlled pursuit, demonstrating restraint as well as skill. Every move was precise, calculated, and humane, showing that humans could combine intelligence with compassion. When the battle ended, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the aftermath. The Thalcoran fleet had sustained minimal damage, and the palace remained intact. The coalition had learned a lesson they would not forget. Humans were not to be underestimated. Valeth joined him, her hand brushing lightly against his. You have done more than survive, Elias, she said. You have changed perceptions, inspired courage, and proven that even against overwhelming odds, humans can triumph. He looked at her, humbled. I just did what I had to. But I've learned something important too. Humans are not just survivors. We can be innovators, protectors, and symbols of hope. And sometimes, that is enough to change the course of the galaxy. Valeth's eyes glimmered. Then we will continue, Elias. Together. There are still challenges ahead, and the extremists will not give up. But we have seen what is possible. We have seen the strength of humanity. As night fell over Thalcora, the palace lights shimmering across the oceans, Elias felt a deep sense of purpose. He had survived death once. He had returned against all odds, and now, he was proving that humans could not just endure. They could influence, inspire, and reshape the galaxy itself. The coalition would come again. The galaxy would continue to challenge him. But Elias was ready. He was no longer just a human lost in the stars. He was a force of hope, a symbol of ingenuity and resilience, and a reminder to all that sometimes, even when the universe expects failure, humans rise, and they rise stronger than anyone imagines. The galaxy was quiet for a moment, but Elias knew that peace was temporary. The coalition had retreated, but their threat remained. They had underestimated him once, and now they would return with greater force. Yet, Elias did not feel fear. He felt determination, a steady resolve strengthened by every challenge he had survived. The lessons of survival, ingenuity, and courage had all come together, shaping him into something more than a human who had narrowly escaped death. He had become a symbol, a bridge between species, and a force the galaxy could not ignore. Valeth stood beside him on the palace balcony, her indigo eyes reflecting the glow of Thalkora's oceans. "They will come again," she said softly, "and this time, they will not hold back. Are you ready, Elias?" He nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the calm confidence that had grown within him. "I've faced impossible odds before. I've survived death, time, and uncertainty. I will face them too. Not just for me, but for everyone who believes in what humans can do." The days that followed were filled with preparation, but Elias approached each task with clarity and purpose. He worked with Valeth to strengthen the planetary defenses, coordinated fleet maneuvers, and trained both humans and Thalkoran soldiers in unconventional strategies that leveraged adaptability and unpredictability. Every detail was examined, every possibility considered. He knew that victory would depend not on sheer strength, but on the ability to think differently, to act boldly, and to inspire those who fought alongside him. Finally, the coalition returned. Their fleet was larger, more aggressive, and more organized than before. Dark ships advanced toward Thalkora in menacing formations, their energy weapons glowing ominously. Elias stood at the command station, calm yet focused, analyzing every movement. He could anticipate their strategy because he understood human psychology and alien tactics alike. He could see where their overconfidence would be their undoing. Valeth's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "Remember," she said, "your strength is not just in your mind. It is in your courage, your willingness to act when others hesitate, and your ability to inspire hope. Lead, Elias." He inhaled deeply and gave the order. "Initiate countermeasures. Deploy decoys and energy diversions. Use the environment currents, shields, and hidden turrets. Force them into our maze. Let them underestimate us." The battle began in earnest. Coalition ships surged forward, confident in their superiority. Elias's plan unfolded perfectly. Decoys drew enemy fire, while hidden energy currents redirected ships into traps. Turrets fired with precision, disabling the enemy without unnecessary destruction. The coalition's formations became chaotic as they struggled to respond to unexpected attacks. Every move Elias predicted, every reaction he calculated, worked exactly as he intended. But then, the coalition launched their most dangerous maneuver. A massive strike force broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for the palace. Panic threatened to ripple through the fleet, but Elias remained composed. He assessed the situation, calculated the energy flows, and devised a plan in seconds. "Redirect power to the central shield," he commanded. "Create a temporary energy corridor along the currents. Use it to guide their ships away from the palace. Then isolate them with targeted ion pulses. Focus fire only on what threatens us directly. Precision, not power, is our advantage." Valeth watched in awe as the human orchestrated the defense. Ships moved as if guided by an invisible hand, turning, dodging, and striking in perfect synchronization. The strike force was funneled into a controlled path, unable to break formation or attack effectively. Ion pulses disabled their engines, and the hidden turrets completed the work, ensuring that not a single civilian life on Thalkora was lost. As the last enemy ship was neutralized, Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. They had survived. They had won. And more importantly, They had proven that humans could be a force that altered the course of entire battles, even against overwhelming odds. Valeth approached him, her expression softening. "You have done more than survive and strategize, Elias. You have inspired courage across our fleets, reminded the galaxy of the value of ingenuity, and shown that hope can be more powerful than fear. You have changed how humans are seen, and how we see them ourselves." Elias looked out over the calm waters of Thalcora, feeling the weight of her words. The battle was over, but the larger war for perception, trust, and cooperation among species had just begun. He realized that survival alone was not enough. To truly make a difference, humans had to act, to innovate, and to demonstrate that courage and wisdom could reshape destiny. "You believe in humans," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Even after everything we've done, even after the risks, you still trust us to rise to the occasion." Valeth smiled faintly, her hand brushing his arm. "I do. You have proven it. Not just through your actions, but through the way you think, the way you adapt, the way you refuse to surrender to fear or despair. That is why I waited for you. That is why I never gave up hope." The palace erupted in celebration that night, though Elias did not join immediately. He walked through the glowing gardens, listening to the soft hum of the palace and feeling the pulse of life around him. He reflected on everything he had endured: the reactor breach, the loss of time, the doubts, and the constant threats. He understood now that every challenge had shaped him, honed him, and prepared him for this moment. Humans were resilient. But more than that, they were unpredictable in ways that no other species could anticipate. They could inspire loyalty, change minds, and face danger without hesitation. He had witnessed it firsthand, and the galaxy had witnessed it now through him. Valeth found him in the gardens, standing quietly beneath a tree whose leaves shimmered like liquid silver. "Do you see now?" she asked softly. "The galaxy will remember this. Humans will be remembered differently from this day forward. And you are the reason." Elias nodded, a quiet pride swelling in his chest. "I never asked for that," he admitted. "I just wanted to survive. To live. To help when I could. But I see now. Sometimes, surviving is the first step toward changing everything." She reached out and took his hand. "Then let us continue, Elias. Not for the battles, not for the fame, not for fear of enemies, but for what we can build together. For hope, for cooperation, and for a future where humans and Thalcorans can shape the galaxy as equals." He looked at her hand in his, then up at her eyes, full of trust and expectation. He felt the magnitude of the responsibility, but he also felt the certainty of purpose. He had been given a second chance at life, a second chance to make a difference. He would not squander it. In the days that followed, Elias worked alongside Valeth to rebuild, strengthen, and unify. He met with ambassadors from other species, helped mediate disputes, and demonstrated that humans could contribute not just technology or strength, but creativity, wisdom, and compassion. Every encounter reinforced the lesson he had learned. Humans were more than they seemed, capable of acts that could inspire entire civilizations. News of his survival spread across the galaxy. Stories of a human who had faced death, mastered alien technology, and led Thalcora to victory traveled faster than any fleet. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or inconsequential. They were respected, admired, and sometimes feared, but always recognized as capable of greatness. One evening, as Elias and Valeth stood together watching the twin moons rise over the oceans, she spoke again, softly. "You are more than a hero, Elias. You are a reminder to us all that hope, courage, and ingenuity can overcome even the greatest challenges. Your survival was a gift, not just to yourself, but to the galaxy." He smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of her presence and the weight of her words. "I only survived because I had to. But I see now that survival can mean more than life. It can mean change, inspiration, and hope. Humans are capable of more than anyone imagined, including ourselves. Valeth nodded. And now, you will continue to show them. Together, we will ensure that the galaxy never forgets what humans can do. Elias looked out over Thalcora, the glowing oceans stretching to the horizon. The battles, the threats, the dangers, they were not over. But the greatest victory had already been won. Humanity had proven its worth, its resilience, and its potential to inspire across species. He had survived death, he had returned stronger than before, and now, the galaxy would never see humans in the same way again. He turned to Valeth, her blue skin glowing softly in the moonlight, her eyes reflecting pride and trust. "Let's make sure the future is one we can both be proud of," he said. She smiled, placing a hand over his. "Together, Elias. Always together." Elias. For the first time in his life, Elias felt completely at peace. The past had tested him, but the future was open. And humans, he realized, could rise above anything, even death, even doubt. Even the vastness of the galaxy itself. They could inspire, protect, and change destinies, and he would ensure that humanity's light shone brightly for all who witnessed it. In the end, Elias was not just alive. He was proof. Proof that courage, ingenuity, and hope could triumph over any challenge. Proof that humans were more than fragile creatures. They were survivors, innovators, and champions. And in the arms of the Queen who had never given up on him, he knew that this was only the beginning of a story the galaxy would remember for generations.